Whew, good. And that big voice that has to say that so loud. Well, good morning. And we do have a question that came in from the path. Oh, I guess I better remember to run it live on the YouTube, which I'm always forgetting to do. So give me 1 second. I'll do this now. Okay. Okay. All right, so we're live on YouTube and we're doing this. So here we go. And I don't, Michelle, if we get a question on YouTube, would you pass it to me? Because I can't see my chat or anything. Or just tell me, I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, we're live on YouTube and we're also live on the path. And good morning. I think that with the change in the time, I had to do a seminar this morning at 9 o'clock and half the people didn't show up, and because it was the wrong time, etc. So even though our cell phones changed, our brains still aren't all changed. Okay, so I got a question that was put into the path from someone who can't be here. And that is, I'm following the moon cycle currently. And that, of course, means that she's doing the fertility massage without a cycle following the moon cycle. So she watches to see when the full moon is, and she considers that week the week of her menses. And then the week after that is the week that she does the fertility massage every day. So, and she's also following it just because she's getting symptoms directly around the time of the full moon. It could be around the time of the new moon, you know, for us women, we have our cycle normally according to one of the moons. And then sometimes it switches, like in the middle of the year, it might switch. Because the cycle is not just a machine that has to come at 28 days. The cycle is a tool that the body uses to help balance things. So as we've said many times, when you're not having a cycle, it's just because the body doesn't have the right nutrition to be able to make enough blood to do what it needs to have, to be able to bring back the hormones that then begin to do the cycle. So, but our cycles are kind of coordinated with the moon, and also in line a lot of times with the other women around us, that if they're on a cycle, that we're on a cycle too. So if you're looking for symptoms of a cycle, what I'm trying to say is it may be around the new moon or it may be around the full moon. And the fact that the cycle is used to balance you. So for many women in the summer, when it gets really, really hot, the body will go, oh my God, I'm so hot. What can we get rid of that'll cool us off? And you have an early cycle. And you think there's something wrong. It's nothing wrong. It's just that the body wanted to cool off. So anyway, back to her question. She says, and she's having a lower backache right around that time of the full moon. This month is a bit different, however. I've noticed a little backache, but more obviously, I feel very tired, almost drowsy for the last few days. And I've had a small breakout on my forehead and chin, which I normally never get. Do you think these are all changes in the right direction? My energy level's been excellent, so this mini slump is not concerning me too much, and I just hope it's temporary. Well, when the body is healing and doing things inside, many times we'll get sleepy or drowsy. You know, it's one of the symptoms also that comes up a lot in the winter, especially if you're doing the whole plan, you're doing the energy exercises, you're doing everything, and you're being consistent with your sleep, consistent with what you're doing. The winter is the time when the body does a lot of deep healing. You know, it's when animals hibernate. And for us, what will happen is we'll just kind of have the urge to take a nap every so often, which isn't like us. maybe we just can always keep going. Our mind is so strong that we don't have to listen to the body, but the body really wants to get something done. So it's going to make you sleepy. So if you feel sleepy or drowsy, usually it's because there's some deep healing going on. And also, right before a cycle, even if you're having cycles, you could feel that way, because having a cycle is an operation for the body, and it's something that takes energy to set up, and then the body knows it's going to be losing blood, so it's going to be losing energy. So sometimes it's trying to prepare for that and to do that. So I think this is all wonderful. It sounds like things are cooking down there, and it sounds like something's going to be happening soon. So that's my my learned response to your question. So anyway, it's a beautiful day here, and it is sunny California today. I'm just really grateful. I used to live on the East Coast, and when it was really drowsy and rainy, nobody, if you had a business, everybody would call, because that was the time when you were going to get something done, because it was raining. And so you felt like, okay, I can't be outside playing. Here in California, if it starts to rain and it gets gloomy, nobody does anything because they don't do anything. There's no phone calls, nothing. I mean, we used to have a local business, and it would just die when it was raining or overcast, even just overcast heavily. And I don't know what the difference is, but I guess we are just so loving the sunshine that when it's not there, we get depressed, I guess. I don't know. Does anybody have a question they want to put in the chat? So if you have something, you can put it in there. Or if you're on YouTube, and I'm going to see if I can pull YouTube up over here somewhere, so I don't have to depend on Michelle. So let's see if I can.
While we are waiting, can I ask something in line of the using the full moon as a guide?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second. There's something going on because YouTube is coming in. Is this YouTube? Okay, I need to mute YouTube. Okay. And then now I'll be able to see if questions come in. Okay, let me come back, resume what we're doing, and put the recording back on. Okay, well, it's been recording the whole time. Okay, so what's your question? Please ask.
Yes. I wanted to find out, in line of the question that came in of using the full moon as the guide, looking at March the 16th. So do you count like 7 days from that day, then the following week for a week you do the massage? Or how?
What I think you do is you just see, okay, the full moon ended up on like Thursday of that week. Well, let's just call the whole week our week of our cycle. Okay. So that makes it easier. You look at the calendar, you see when the full moon is, if it's lying in that week. If it's Saturday, I think you could go either way. But I would just use it that way. So then you're working with your weeks, because as I just said, the body, it's not a precision thing. It's a, it's that will work just fine. Work very well.
Okay. Thank you.
And when your real cycle comes back, it may surprise you and not be on the full moon at all. She's getting signs of something happening around the full moon. But if someone doesn't really get signs, and then all of a sudden their cycle comes, it could easily just be on the new moon. And if that happens, well, you just throw the full moon out the window and you just work with the new moon at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's a great question. Really good. Okay. The seminar I was doing this morning had nothing to do with this, so my mind keeps going on that information, and I needed to have it go on your information. So let's see what's come up this week that was interesting. Well, someone's pregnant. I put it in the. Did you see that in the newsletter?
Yes, I did. That was great news. It was really encouraging.
Yeah. Do you have blocked tubes or no?
No.
But blocked tubes, you can imagine if your tubes were blocked, that's a really kind of unique infertility issue, Because first of all, it puts you right into the Western mindset. There's something wrong mechanically in one part of your body, and that's it. And that's why you're not getting pregnant. So when I was trying to develop the Facebook groups about 10 years ago, I was made a separate group just for blocked tube people, because there's kind of a process that goes on. I mean, when you all come in, there's a process that has to happen, because you came here thinking that, oh, good, I'll get the herbal program that's going to fix things. And then all of a sudden we're like, you do the plan, you do the energy exercise. You're like, what? Where did this come from? I didn't go to your website looking for this. But I have to pull you in and then get you. And so, so you have that where you're now learning a new language. You're learning to listen to your body. You're learning to put you and your body and your reactions ahead of what maybe the doctor says you need to do next. You're like, okay, I think that might be a good idea, but my inner gut, you start listening to inside and you say, my gut says, I'm going to wait and I'll come back. You never cut them off. You always leave the door open. You know, when I had somebody years ago tell me, when you pray, always give God an out. Not that he probably needs that, but anyway, she said, say, God, give me this. I'm asking for this. I'm believing for this, or something better. So he knows better than I do what's better. So that's kind of the way that works. Okay, so anyway, so when you have blocked tubes, you have a different mindset that changes, because you're not even thinking that. How I feel, I mean, my tubes are blocked. Let's just get real here. I need to treat this like I need Mr. Clean in the house when everything's dirty, and I'm just going to clean it all out. And so then you look on the internet, and it's actually kind of a big problem, because, you know, there's been an increase in STDs in the last, 30 years, and that can create problems. There's a lot of inflammatory things that can happen in our vagina. We can get just, some inflammation that then causes scar tissue. So all of these things have come up, and so it's a lot more common. And what happens is you're just put right into that Western thinking of, there is a problem, it's in this one part of the body, we'll fix that. And then you think about cleaning house, and then there are so many, I don't mean to say it, but a lot of them scammy things approaching people who have this issue, because there's no place for them to go. It used to be the doctor would say, well, we'll just clean out the tubes. That's maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And they never bothered to tell the woman that when you have something that's the size of an angel hair pasta, and you're going inside it to catheterize it, that it's pretty obvious you're going to have to rub against the walls. And it's pretty obvious you're going to cause inflammation, which then can cause scar tissue, and they're most likely going to reblock. The women were never told that. They went through the catheterization, they spent the money and the time to do it, and then they went back a year later saying, can you check, because I haven't gotten pregnant? And they said, oh, it's reblocked, not telling them why or when it probably reblocked. So if you do that, you want to make love like a rabbit for the first couple of months, and then maybe you have a good chance of getting pregnant. But otherwise, so what will happen is that, I remember this one woman, Angela Anderson, I love her. She's still a friend. Her child is 8 years old now, and she had blocked tubes, and she just, they didn't have the money to do IVF, which was their only other choice. And so she just gave it up to God and said, okay, I want a child. I know you're going to give me a child, and I'm just going to keep doing this. So she was taking the block tube program. And then after a while, because she heard the plan sounds like, what is it? What was that island? Treasure Island? No, not Treasure Island, where the little guy goes, the plane. Anyway, that's what I say. And so she said, look, I want to have a body that's ready to hold this baby. I want to be really fertile when I unblock the tubes. And so she started doing things. I know she took Super Fertility 3. I remember that, and probably Balance. And she did that for a while. So a year and a half later, all of a sudden she's pregnant. And she did get pregnant. And that is common with blocked tubes, that it takes time. So people will come in, do it for 3 months and say, it doesn't work, I'm leaving. But with everything that you're trying to heal your whole life, you could be 55, 65, 75, 85, whatever it is, you want to be enlivening that regeneration power that lives in you. That's always there. And it kind of gets blocked by stress and all of that. That's why the tools that you're learning now are going to help you live a long life and live with a quality life, because you're going to have a routine that releases the stress. And sure, maybe you'll just go away from it for a while, but you'll come back because you'll remember how it felt and what it did for you, and you'll come back to it. So that's one thing. It takes true grit to unblock your tubes, because you've got to just keep going and not be focusing on it all the time. And there's no way to tell unless you get pregnant or you go through another painful SSG. And sometimes those tests, the doctor is in a hurry and tries to push it through, and the muscles can tighten up and it can look like your tube is blocked when it's not. So there's a lot of ifs when you have blocked tubes. But if you have the attitude, hey, what I want to do is just go like crazy. I'm going to get Robizon. I'm going to get serapeptase. I'm going to get the 2 Chinese herbs, which are in our clear flow, but in the right proportion, because you don't want to take a lot. And then they take all of this. And of course, we Americans, I know not everyone listening is an American, but Americans feel more is better. If it gets bigger, it's going to be better. And sometimes that's not true. If it's less, it's better, not more, it's better. So they put in the serapeptase, not the 40,000, but the 500,000, And so what it's like is huge, like a rotor-rooter, just going, trying to push things out. And when you do that to the body, you're not being gentle and loving and helping the body, you're pushing. And when you're moving, you're also moving blood. So when you move and you move blood, guess what happens? You get blood deficient. So here's a person, they finally unblocked their tubes. They haven't done anything else to help themselves. And now they don't have enough beautiful blood to have a nice uterine wall for the blastocyst to even jump into. Okay. So they are there ready to make a baby, but the body's not ready to make a baby. If they do have a cycle, it's become very short. The signs of blood deficiency are hair and nails are not the way they should be, that sleep is not very good, that energy is low, and that the cycle either skips, we have one this month, but not the next month, or it's very light in color. So the cycle should be the color of a dark red rose. So there are different signs. The cycle can tell you a lot about what's going on in your body. That's why I always ask those questions. Is it dark at the end of your cycle? I mean, I have a lot more questions I could ask, but that's a really important one, because if you have a cold uterus, you're going to have dark blood at the end of your cycle. And that's also, if you have a cold uterus, you're probably going to have low progesterone. And so then you start taking progesterone cream, but that's not really taking care of the root cause. See, when you start seeing how you feel and then thinking about that, like I'm cold, what happens when you're cold? The circulation goes down, down, down in the body, right? And so the circulation's slower. You're not able to process food the way it should be processed, or the herbs. So progesterone goes down, and then you have the Western thought, okay, the hormone's low, let's pour some in. That's not really solving the problem. If you are working on the first half of the cycle, where you say, well, the progesterone's not so important then. But the first part of the cycle is when you're building blood, you're nourishing the body, you're bringing back the uterine wall, you're doing all the things that help. First, you're letting everything go, and then you're bringing it back. And if you concentrate on that, where you're building a wonderful egg, you're building the beautiful uterine wall. Well, what happens is that the eggs that you produce are higher quality, and then a good high quality egg hits the pituitary, and beautiful progesterone just comes flooding down in the second half. So you're not thinking again in pieces and parts. You're thinking about the whole body. And if the whole body is coordinated and working together, what can happen? So, so long thing about blocked tubes and everything else. But anybody else have a question about anything? Anything's game? Someone's raising their hand.
Hey, Amanda.
Hey, hi.
Hi. I
Hi,
had a
Anna.
quick question. If you answered it already, I can go back. I'm working my way through the path and your live answers.
I haven't been in the path for a week and a half because people weren't gone here and we had that huge sale. And so
Yeah.
I was doing 3 people's jobs. It was really interesting.
Oh,
If you want to have I always respect my employees. They're amazing. But if you really want to respect your employees, let them go away for a little while.
yeah.
And then you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're back.
In one of the previous Q&As, somebody had asked about the supplement NMN, and I think you said something about going back and you're going to look into it. And I also looked into it, but I wanted to hear your opinion because some of the research I saw points to it actually being more effective than CoQ10. And I don't know how valid that is. And I was wondering if you had a chance to look at that.
With CoQ10 as helping the egg quality?
Yeah, they said the supplement, this NMN, was I guess a little bit more powerful or had greater results in, I hate to say it, but lab mice, and basically did a better job than CoQ10. And I was wondering if you had a chance to look at it. I forget who had asked the question.
I don't remember either. I do remember the question. I do remember I also looked at it briefly and looked at some of the research. I do remember I never answered the question.
Okay, no, it's okay.
So you're right on time. But I think it doesn't matter which one you take. And if you feel like the research says this, then I would go ahead and take it. This is the fascination that Western medicine's having now with natural things. That's the fascination that's built into having functional medicine rather than just medicine. Okay, we are functional medicine. What we're going to do is look at your nutritional values. We're going to see if you're low in vitamin A or vitamin D or if you're CoQ10. And so then they start going into figuring out which one of these things could be absolutely wonderful for what you're doing. There is a wonderful book called Clean Gut that was written by Alejandro, I forget his last name. He actually has a practice here in Santa Monica because I have a friend who goes to him. And when I read it, I was like, this is great. This is like Chinese medicine, because he was talking about how, there used to be a school in Chinese medicine that was just devoted to the gut. It was called, they called it spleen, but it isn't our spleen. And it's like every disease comes from the digestive system. Every disease is what the premise of the school was, because Chinese medicine would break off into different areas of fascination that people had with it. And so I read the book, and then he said, I believe it was L-glutamine that was something that's really important to take. And so I was reading the book and following some of the things he was saying, and I got some L-glutamine, and my body didn't like it. My body did not like it. So I stopped, because this is the fascination they have right now is, okay, look at these wonderful things like blueberries and this and that. Let's find out what the active ingredient is. Let's make it into something like Prevagen. Okay, Prevagen is based on the jellyfish. And jellyfish helping the brain is something Chinese medicine has believed for a long time. So when it first came out, I went, oh boy, this stuff would probably work. I've never taken it, but I thought, wow, that's based on something I understand. But what they do is they take something and then they modify a little bit so they can patent it. And then they say, this is Prevagen. Or with ginkgo biloba, I forget the supplement they would be selling that had the active ingredient of ginkgo in it, and they tweaked it And then they said, okay, this is something I can patent. And then nobody else could use that name or do what was there. This is what's going on, which is fine. It's really interesting. It's fun to look at. And I've been in the natural food industry since I was in my 20s, with a small break for 17 years where I did something else. But it's leaving out the root cause. You know, when you read the clean gut, or you read people saying that you should do this or that, they're never talking about how you, or the temperature of what you eat, that the digestive system likes warmth. It does, nowhere do you see something like that. If you're talking about progesterone or that sort of thing, or why somebody is not getting pregnant, and all these, I had a woman who, she'd been trying for like 12 years, and all these doctors and all these things, and nobody could find anything wrong with her, and she couldn't get pregnant. If she did, she miscarried. She had multiple miscarriages, and all I had to do was look at that self-assessment form. She wanted to sleep all the time, which is a symptom of being cold. She had dark at the end of her cycle when it came. She didn't have it very often. She had low progesterone. She was cold. Everything was cold, and the body can't support itself. And also, of course, her energy was low. So if you're cold, and then your digestive system, which hates cold, even though you drink all those cold drinks, it doesn't process the food well enough. You're not getting enough of the nutrition out of there. So that's a root cause. That's something you can change. The doctor can't change. The doctor's not even going to think of it, and he's not going to think it's relevant. So there's this whole thing going on with Western medicine, with functional medicine, and now epigenetics, which, you know, we've been talking about for years, of the chronological age and the biological age. And it's wonderful and it's exciting, because not only are they seeing evidence that your body gets younger, like Dr. Mark Hyman, whom I love, who's the one who wrote that that blog article called The Myth of the Diagnosis. Awesome article. They have some way, which I haven't investigated to see why, because I only heard this like 2 weeks ago, where he is 60 and his epigenetic age is 39.
Wow.
You know, when I was 44, almost 45, and I'd been doing this program for 9 months, I just spontaneously had the idea, wow, I don't feel 44 anymore. I feel 34. Well, I mean, I don't know what the exact word thought would, you know, time would have been, but I knew I was living in a younger body. Everybody does. You see it, you feel it. You have that sense of well-being that you have when you were younger that you don't have now, because of all the challenges and the stresses that are kind of boxed up inside. And if the root cause for you is something that hasn't been totally resolved, but when you know what the root cause is, you move that forward, and then all kinds of opportunities open up. You know, you can go back to a doctor, you know, a year later and say, hey, let's see if we can do something now. And you don't even care what the numbers are, because you know your body's strong enough to hold a baby full term. And that's a big deal. People don't think about that. They just think, let's get pregnant, let's have a menses. Well, what about holding the baby full time? What about feeding the baby for that 9 months and giving that baby the best start in life possible, making the most beautiful egg you can? Well, do you do that by taking a long list of supplements? Like, you know, the egg, what is it? Starts with an egg, that long list. Oh my God, I've never seen somebody who actually is taking them all. We have a customer now who sent me the long list, because I like to say, okay, what supplements are you taking? Let's see, and we can kind of break them down a little bit, because taking too many extras out of the, not whole food, but supplements, like, you know, all the vitamins and all the different things, taking too many of them actually throws the body off, because it's not used to processing so many of those, and it takes more energy. And of course, if they're micronutrients, you have to have them with food. Our herbs are food. So you can have them with food, without food, it doesn't matter, because they are food.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you, I think we spoke about this a little bit during our one-on-one. If you have been taking it, you're taking your herbs, you're taking your program, and adding additional Radiant Wonder supplements and you've hit a plateau where you're not regressing into your previous symptoms, but you feel like you might not be advancing, but you're maintaining, meaning you're still taking all your herbs in your
But you
program.
feel like it's a flat space.
Yeah, I remember we started talking about it, and I think we said it was a good topic to kind of share with everyone. I was wondering if you could talk about the plateau and either anything you would advise to get out of it for the better, or how to shake things up again.
Yeah, I mean, this is an absolutely wonderful let me see, let me put this on. I never remember, why is it saying no? I never remember what I've talked about after, right after a Q&A, and then I'm supposed to put notes next to it of what we talked about. So if I let my iPad run at the same time, I get a transcription. So I do want to remember to put that this is going to be on here. So obviously, if you're on a, you're going up a mountain. And I remember when we were kids, we went up the White Mountains and as a family, and we were going up. And at one point, anyway, it got a little crazy. But you're going up and you're going up and you can see progress and you can see progress. And then there's this plateau where you don't really feel like you're getting anywhere. And that's how you feel when you're going through this. So it depends a little bit on what your root causes are and also the environment. So you want to look at the environment. Has anything changed in the environment? Has the weather changed? Has the season changed? Has the people that I'm dealing with, has that changed? Is there anything that's changed for me? If it's changed and it's creating more stress, okay, then you know that that's a function of the liver. The liver processes the excess hormones. The liver in Asian medicine is also the organ system that moves the energy and blood in the body. If things should move smoothly. If things don't move smoothly, then you can get the commander of the chi and the blood, the energy in the blood can get a little frustrated. So you usually, when you're feeling it's a plateau, I'm not sure that you're not feeling it just looking at it clinically. I saw this, I don't see anything else changing. Or if you're also feeling it emotionally, where now I feel flat, I don't feel like things are changing. Is it both of those, Anna, or is it just one? Or could you talk to that for a minute, or somebody else?
I don't think so I think it's weird for me. I'm probably like older in the sense that I started on the program just with the POF back in, I think, July. And then, which I instantly felt amazing. So I'm not, believe me, don't look back. It was instantly amazing. And I've since then even dabbled in my own kind of like, okay, add this to the cocktail, including Thinker's Energy Tonic and, I'm sorry, not a tonic, Thinker's Energy and different stress relievers. And I'm extremely happy. But I got to get out of my funk, or I'm not doing, I know you're going to hate me for saying this, the radiates like I should.
I'm going to hate you.
No. I need to take it back to and hear your words in my head more often when you're continuing to tell us, hey, that's half of the solution is the supplements. The other half is your own, radiate exercises, being more diligent there, doing more of the massages and taking a little bit more accountability. I'm self-admittedly lazy. So that I was thinking maybe that's the reason for my plateau too.
Okay, first of all, lazy doesn't exist. Lack of willpower doesn't exist. It's simply a lack of energy.
Yeah.
When our energy gets a little low, our mood gets a little low, and we also, or you're doing so much and the body wants to cut down, wants to rest, and you think that you don't have enough willpower to make it happen. And so normally what this plateau kind of feeling that way is that the energy in the body is not moving easily for that sense of well-being. And so that's why maybe it's not maybe getting out for a walk, maybe just going in our room and locking the door and putting some crazy music on for 5 minutes and dancing like a mad woman, and then calmly going and unlocking the door and going out. Maybe that's enough to break it.
Yep.
You know, it doesn't have to be back into the same box, the same routine. Maybe you need a break from the radiant energy exercises. Your body's saying, I'm not wanting to do them right now. So you kind of treat your body as if it's a child, your first child. and you just say, look, you know, okay, we're going to take a week off from this, but you're not off. We're going to do some exercise. We're going to do some other things, and we're going to see how you feel with these. Then you go and you try this and you try that and you do some other things and you check in with your body, and your body's like, yeah, that's helping me break out of this. So you continue for that for a while. And then when you feel okay, but you are moving, you know, sure, regular exercise is doing the large muscle groups, and Radiant Aid is doing the tiny muscle groups and getting to things that the large muscle groups don't ever get to. And the massage is getting to the uterus and blah, 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 all those good things. Maybe you keep doing the massage, and because that's, but maybe you become more present when you do it. Okay, I've just been doing it and following it, and I'm kind of getting out of actually feeling it, because there is so much healing energy that's coming from your hands. And when you're doing, and this is not an esoteric new age craziness, this is the truth. When I first started doing Qigong, first of all, I'd done yoga for a long time, off and on, not all the time. And I loved it. It made me feel good. But when I did the Qigong regularly, not just doing it, I couldn't believe the difference, because Qigong brings a power into you that's amazing. Yoga, and I'm talking about regular yoga, not hot yoga, not something that's more like a cardio type thing. Yoga is stretching and holding the stretches, which is all good. But with Qigong, it's opening the meridians so that the stress flows out. It's like do less and accomplish more.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really interesting. But one of the tests that they did, and maybe I shouldn't be doing this on a video, so maybe I'm not supposed to say this, so don't tell anybody I said it. But one of the exercises was that one person would stand with their eyes closed, and the other person would put their hands around the outside of the body, like, you know, maybe a foot, half a foot, and go down the side. And I ended up doing a man, and I was like this and like this and like this. And then, oh my God, there's heat here. I was like, okay. but you feel it. What I noticed primarily was when I would go, you know, I'd just be working or whatever. If I went for a walk, I got a little extra exercise, I would feel energy around my hands. We just like show up. And I'm sure you guys, if you notice, the same thing happens to you. When it was springtime and the bushes were out there, I would like play with it. I'd like bounce, and I could feel the energy outside the bush. And of course, I was working with people in the clinic. And so when their eyes were closed, I would do the same thing for them. And I could feel it was like, could feel it being there. So there is energy that comes from your hands. You're not, you know, the great saint that's going to bring somebody back from the dead and do this and that, but that energy you can use. And so use it, you know, use it on your belly before you go to bed at night, not even moving, just like shaking your hands or activating it, use it there, or just use it on your face, you know, when you're feeling dull and everything, and tap your head and use your hands to nurture and love and help your body. If you feel pain somewhere, don't go like, oh no, pain. Put your hand there, go round and round quietly with a little bit of a circular motion, but just tune in, because that will help you get out of the plateau. That will help you become, you know, a little child has an incredible imagination, and we were born with that, but it got tamped down because we had to learn how life really works. You know, well, that's life. Well, forget that.
Yeah.
Go back to being a child and have fun find some way to do whatever you're doing, have some fun with it, and just feel free to create on your own. You know what you need to do. You need to help the energy flow a little bit more easily. You know, that's normally where it blocks. The other place it could block is like, you just haven't been eating well, you know, and you haven't been having good sleep. So good food, good sleep, good movement, and laugh. Every day, find something to laugh about, something that's funny, because laughter and singing have a huge effect on your body. They've done tests on this. And it really, I mean, you know, there was a whole book about that guy who cured himself of cancer, just being sure to laugh a whole bunch every day and find funny books and find funny friends. And it just turned his whole immune system around.
Yep.
So I would not be so serious about the plan. I would be serious about the root causes and see what you can do to help move things. That's how I would try to get out of it. But you can also observe, you know, it isn't always somebody or something's fault, and certainly not your fault. This is a new adventure that you and your body are having together, and you're becoming a team. And so this is an opportunity for you to figure out how to get the team working together for the soccer game again, you know? And so you just look at it that way. It's just like food. People say, oh, I should eat this, I shouldn't eat that. You have a lifetime to have a relationship with food. And the way you develop it is how your body feels. Like me not taking the L-glutamine, you know, that's the way it is. But I think if you stay with whole foods as much as you can, you know, without a lot of the fast food type things, you try to really limit your sugar. I'm reading things all the time about the sugar, and I'm so happy to know that fruit sugar, except like maybe some that are super duper full of sugar, is not counted on the sugar for the day so much. You don't have to count so much of it, because I have this really great little drink that is banana and blueberry and something else in it. And I don't drink it all at once because that's a lot, but I didn't want to have it feel like it was a sticky bun. And I love sticky buns.
Thanks, Amanda.
You're welcome. We're all in this together, you know. We really are. That's crazy in life right now. And I feel like it's, you know, I say this over and over, but like, you know, when you wake up in the morning and then you in bed, and of course you just woke up and you have a big day ahead of you, and of course you don't feel capable. You don't feel like you even want to get out of bed. How can you deal with all that stuff? And you begin to have those, even if you aren't heavy thoughts, you begin to have these thoughts of like, you know, we tend to not expect success. That's the human way. And there's nothing wrong with expecting the best. And I feel like my life, God has just put so many things in my way, so many times, over and over and over and over, to teach me not to be afraid, to teach me that I used to call it, back in the days when I was trying to get pregnant and I was going through that business where it was falling apart and the woman was embezzling, I used to call it the mouth of the dragon. I'd feel like there was this, and I'm not into Chinese stuff, but there was this, it'd be something really nasty, you know, so I thought the mouth of the dragon, and I found out if I walked into the mouth, it would disappear and the fear would go if I just like went right into it. Well, that's a long time ago. I don't think that way right now, and I'm not afraid anymore, because I really, I believe in success. I believe I'm not going to fail. And that doesn't mean that everything's just hunky-dory. I mean, COVID hit us really hard, and we have a close person in the family who was hit really heavily with a health condition that's not easy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening right now, but I just have a sense of purpose and a sense of happiness that something good is going to happen every day. And a lot of it's just because I love to laugh. And if I can't laugh because there's nobody around to laugh with and there's nothing funny happening, I'll do the dishes and I'll sing, because singing does the same thing for me. And whether you have a voice or not, it doesn't matter. And what you're singing, it doesn't matter. And whether it's this or that, it doesn't matter. It just has an incredible effect on the flow of energy in your whole body. So if you're in the car and nobody's around, turn on the music and sing like crazy. You'll get home feeling much better than when you left work.
Agreed.
Yeah. Agreed. And if anybody has something to offer, a trick they use, well, please share it, because we're always open for more ideas. So, okay. Well,
I think.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
Hi. I wanted to ask a question. And I really appreciate all the encouragement. So, I am 48 and, I've been trying the regimen for about a year, including the exercises. And I think the thing I could be doing more consistently is getting more sleep, which is very hard to do.
It's a
But
big
I was
one.
just curious, just from a, maybe a motivation perspective, have you had clients that have used, the herbs and follow the routine, gotten pregnant in their upper 40s, early
Yes,
50s? And
yes,
if
yes,
so,
yes.
was it natural or did they typically need to do IVF with it?
Typically, it's natural, but
Okay.
the opportunity to do IVF also opens up. And so then for some of them, it's IVF. And it's not, the point is not whether you do it naturally or IVF. That is not the point. It's never been the point.
Right.
The point is to have a body that can hold a pregnancy full term.
Right.
Okay. And that you feel that sense of well-being, and those things that we're talking about growing in how you feel are growing. And of course, that's a legacy for your life. So as you get that in line, and it does not matter if you're 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, does not matter the age. What
Yes.
matters is what's happening as you're healing. And then that allows you to have quality of life for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, when we're talking about having a baby, then there aren't as many people who are 48, 49, 50 and early 50s that call me because they've already 100% have bought into the idea that they can never have a baby.
Right.
So if they do call me or if they do contact me, it's like, I am so old and everything's wrong with me. And I just don't think there's any hope for me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you may have been present when I told you, did you hear me talk about the non-clinical survey I did for a year about this issue?
No.
We have many, many Nigerian customers. They're in Canada, they're in the UK, they're in Texas. I don't know how they live in Canada. It's so cold there.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about cold and low progesterone. They're candidates. But anyway, I had a young Nigerian woman who is in medical school in Boston. And what happens when you're from one of these countries like South America or the islands or Asia, you've been brought up in a culture where herbs are not something weird. Herbs are something that your mama uses, that your grandma uses, that everybody has their favorite one. I mean, in Asia, if somebody lives to be 95, everybody says, what herbs were you taking? And he'll put his hand in his pocket and he'll come out and he'll say, I was taking, Shizandra and this and this and this and gochitsa. He'll be taking goji berries. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And so that she is in Boston and being told that she has premature ovarian failure and she's never going to have a baby. And she's devastated. She's also working her buns off.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't want to believe the doctor, but she's absolutely demolished. And I helped her. I helped her to get through medical school, not to have a baby at that time because her body was under so much pressure. It wasn't possible, but I helped her so that when she got out of medical school and she went back to Nigeria, she was able to conceive. But because of that, I asked her, do you have any relatives that had babies late in life? She says, oh yeah, my aunt had a child at 54. So I decided, because I asked a couple other Nigerian friends, because our customers become friends, if they had that situation, and they said yes. So for a year, I asked I just made it Nigerian, every single Nigerian customer that called. I said, do you have someone in your family who has had a baby in their 50s? And in that whole year, there was only one person that I talked to who didn't. It might not have been immediate family. It might have been their cousin's mother, or their cousin's first removed mother, but everybody had someone. So then you have to think, okay, Nigerians aren't that different from Americans. I mean, we're people. There's one race, the human race. And so what's going on? And then, so it's not a genetic thing in my mind. It's an environmental thing. In Nigeria, you don't drink a bunch of cold things. First of all, it costs $1 million to have cold drinks all the time. In Nigeria, you have lots of cooked greens all the time. It's in every dish or lots of dishes. So yeah, there are things that they eat. They eat a lot of starch and stuff that maybe they should, quote unquote, shouldn't eat. But the key things are in place. I mean, there are other things. They shouldn't eat so late at night. They need to leave time before they go to bed so they gain weight when they get older. But babies would prefer to have someone overweight than to have somebody super skinny. So, you know, so I'm looking at that and I'm thinking it's an environmental thing. And so what you're doing is you're changing your environment. And as you change your environment, what happens is, like they say in epigenetics, your body starts functioning at a younger level. You do need to be more strong about supporting yourself with things like sleep and also eating, that you stop eating at, say, maybe 7 o'clock and you do not eat anymore till you go to bed. You need to not wake up in the morning foggy headed because your body all night long has been processing this stuff. And so you want to make sure you're doing something like radiant immune defense, that you're keeping the immune system up, because the immune system is very connected to fertility. I had studied with a very famous doctor of Chinese medicine who was especially, it was fertility. And he said to me, you know, there is something that I do that comes up and it's kind of magical. I get someone in a certain place and it seems like everything should be working. It's not quite working. And I help their immune system, boom, they're pregnant. So I would say that as we get older, and of course I'm 20 years older than you, that these things of going to bed at a good time, and I get it. I would like, I at night is when nobody's interrupting me. When my husband's asleep, he goes to bed at 9 and I can just go for it. And it's, I have an alarm set at 8:30 to remind me that I want to be in bed by 10. I never pay attention to that.
Sounds familiar.
And then I'm at 11 o'clock saying, okay, 11 to 6, that's 7 hours. I can count that because I want 7 or 8. But, you know, 11 to 7 would be 8 hours. But I rarely get 11 to 7. I'm going 12 to 6. And I know the difference. I know if I get in bed and I get 7 hours minimum, I feel so different. My whole body thanks me. So maybe one of these days I'll listen to one of my tapes and I'll follow it. So I get it. And especially as women, that's our precious time. It's a time when everything's quiet, you know, and you can just be.
Well, thank you. Thank you for confirming that there's still hope. You know, I met with my OBGYN that I've known for years, and I asked her if she thought, you know, like natural, you know, herbal vitamins, et cetera, work. And she's like, I don't know. She said, I don't think that stuff works. And it's not what I wanted to hear.
Well, first of all, doctors have no training in nutrition.
Yeah.
If you are just basic nutrition, if you're in the hospital and you need an IV with nutrients in it, the nurse is going to write it, not the doctor. The doctor does not write that. So they're starting from way back right now, trying to get all excited about all this nutrients because they didn't get it in school. That's number one. Number two is before 1978, I think that was the year, doctors used to say, oh, you can take them. They're going to hurt you. They're not going to do anything for you, but they won't hurt you. I mean, it's fine. Then in 1978, the Journal of American Medical Association published a review, and the editor lost his job because the review said that more than 50% of patients were consulting with natural alternatives to Western medicine and not telling their doctor. And within 2 months, and I used to sing opera in my 20s.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't get very far because I'd started late and I had no money, and the kings and queens aren't supporting us anymore. But anyway, where did I start? Where was I? I said, what did I just say before I
You
said
were
that?
talking about doctors not realizing that their
Oh.
patients were using natural medicine. Mhm.
So I know how it works. If you don't necessarily get ahead in any of these like theater type things because of your talent. You get ahead of it because of, you know, the promotion and what's being done and who you marry. But with this, before 1978, that's what they said. After that was published, within 2 months. So, and I know because I would watch, there'd be articles that all of a sudden would be appearing in Time magazine and USA Today and stuff about some opera singer. I knew how she was getting ahead. 2 months after this happened, all of a sudden in the New York Times, we had heavy duty things about the most sold herbs, kava kava, ginseng, all these different things saying how dangerous they were and that they were going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And even something as benign as licorice, what they will do is they will take the pharmaceuticals, will take licorice and will find what they call the active ingredient. That's not really true either. With ginkgo, they called one thing the active ingredient, and a year later they found out there was more than one active ingredient. And that's often true with all of these herbs, because everything that you eat, you know, it could be a tangerine, but it's going to have complex phytochemicals in it, a lot of different phytochemicals, not just that active ingredient. So they take out the active ingredient in licorice, glycoside or something, and they give it to somebody in high doses, and then they see what happens. Well, it affects your blood pressure. So then they publish something saying, don't eat licorice because it affects your blood pressure. Well, if you look at all of our herbs, every single bottle has licorice in it. It's like maybe a 0.5%, but it's in there. And it's the whole food. It's a whole food extract. But licorice, the ancient herbalists found that if you're making a pot of herbs and you put a pinch of licorice in it, everything works better. All the herbs do what they're supposed to do together in a much more cohesive way. So there's the way that Western medicine looks at herbs, and even the ingredients of like even vitamins and stuff is pretty primitive compared to Eastern medicine. And vitamins are wonderful, but they're only tiny parts of food. You know, they're not anywhere near as powerful as whole food. I mean, there are exceptions. I mean, and it's not really a vitamin, it's a hormone like vitamin D is amazing. But it needs C and it needs magnesium to process. So even though it's a little complex, it needs those other two to really get the value out of it. So I remember to take my herbs every day, because if I don't take them, I feel different. And I switch them around because I like a lot of them, you know, and I'll just say, well, how am I feeling today? What am I going to take? But I never forget my vitamin D, my C, and my magnesium, because if I don't take that, I really feel different. I have K sitting here and E sitting here and A. I mean, I have a whole bunch of different vitamins, and I have the multivitamin for women over 50. I hardly ever take it. So, because I'm so into like what my body tells me, that's what I do. But I think I would be wiser if I took it. I know you're right. I'm a little silly not to take it, but that's the story. Does anybody else have anything to say? Because I have to.
Hi, Amanda. It's Nora.
I answered your question first thing.
Yeah. I just want to say I just joined in a bit late, but I just want to say thank you for everybody else's questions. It's been really interesting listening.
Yeah.
I'll listen again to the replay and I'll catch my question.
Yeah, it was the first one. And I was celebrating because everything that's going on with you is just a sign of really great things happening. Really great things happening.
That's good. I'll look forward to listening to the replay then later.
Yeah, I would when you're having those feelings, I would help the circulation. So I would do release the menses, you know, in the YouTube channel. You do that exercise, but then I would also, you know, do a hot water bottle, do a heating pad on your belly a little bit, do those things, or the back, just to help the circulation.
Okay.
And just know that it's telling you that things are waking up in there.
Yeah.
Which is a really nice thing. and you just
Yeah,
help
it was really nice to hear everybody else's questions as well.
Yeah, we tend to look at something that's uncomfortable or pain from a distance. And if you get in there, like a mother taking care of her child, it goes away. So pretty amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
Thank
see
you.
you guys next week. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
All right. Bye.
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 Bye.